Welcome to the Tait Talks podcast. Yeah. Like and subscribe. Yeah, fucking yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 18 of the Tait Talks podcast. We are back. I shouldn't say we, because today or this evening, it's only me. Unfortunately, I've been pretty busy this week. Haven't been able to get a guest. I've actually been up in Bendigo with my friend Cody Jones. We've decided to do a podcast together, the Tait and CODYS Guide to Life. That one's coming out in probably about 2 weeks from now. So I think it's November 20th today, I believe it is. So that's going to be coming out in December. Cody Jones is a podcaster. He has an awesome podcast called the Flow State Podcast. And I've decided to team up with him. And he's also a comedian. So we're going to do a podcast together. It's a bit different to this one, to be honest. Pretty raw and rough. Probably more of what my friends thought this podcast would be. But it's a lot of fun. We've got a few episodes already recorded. So keep your eyes out for that one. So Tait and CODYS Guide to Life. And also check out the Flow State podcast. Broden Minogue is also on that, which I've had both of those guys on this podcast. So it's pretty awesome, to be honest. Today, it is episode 18. This one's going to be travel stories. I'm going to be talking about sleeping through a terrorist attack in Belgium, in Brussels, running with the bulls in Pamplona in Spain. Also going to talk about the prison experience that I had in La Paz, Bolivia. San Pedro, I believe that prison's called. And also there's something else I wanted to touch on, but I can't remember. And now it's actually the training Muay Thai in Thailand at the Tiger Muay Thai gym over there, which is pretty popular these days. So I did three-ish months at one stint and another 1 month in a different year. So I'm going to go through those things. This probably will be a 2-part episode because I'm going to try and keep the episodes a lot shorter. I've noticed that people's attention spans, like my own, are pretty small. So just trying to make it a bit more digestible. So hopefully that helps you guys. And it helps me too, so I can break them up and also just exploit 2 episodes type thing. So in 2010, my friend Jake and I decided to go to South America. He was heading up to South America anyway because his brother Chad was working at a hostel. So he invited me to come along. I just quit my plumbing apprenticeship, so I thought, you know what, it's a good way to escape from the world. No one can yell at me in South America, tell me what to do and whatnot. So I was 19 at the time, Jake was 18. Also, our friend Cook came along for the first month in Brazil. Jake and I did about 7 months of traveling throughout South America and a little bit of LA. One of our big or most memorable things that we did was we actually went to the prison in Bolivia. If you guys don't know much about it, I'm actually going to read off some of the things from Wikipedia just so you guys get the full grasp of what I'm trying to say, because it's pretty fucking insane. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what the San Pedro Prison is in Bolivia and La Paz. So from Wikipedia, San Pedro Prison, or El Penal de San Pedro, very much butchered that, is the largest prison in La Paz, Bolivia, and is renowned for being a society within itself. Significantly different from most correctional facilities, inmates at the San Pedro have jobs inside the community, buy or rent their accommodation, and often live with their families. The sale of cocaine base, which is a form of cocaine, I think it's at its most raw form. I think it's very addictive and stuff like that. It's pretty brutal. I think it's worse than crack cocaine. So the sale of cocaine base to visiting tourists gives those inside a significant income and an unusual amount of freedom within the prison walls. Elected leaders enforce the laws of the community. commonly through stabbing. So once again, it's a fucking prison, right? The prison is home to nearly 3,000 inmates, not including women and children, that live inside the walls of their convicted husbands, or with their convicted husbands, I should say, with additional guests staying in the prison hotel. That is right, the prison hotel. The book Marching Powder, written by Rusty Young and published in 2003, describes the experiences of a British inmate, Thomas McFadden, who became known for offering prison tours to tourists. Another book, El Choco, or whatever it's called, by Marcus Ludeman, was published in 2007 and tells the story about Jonas Andersson, a Swedish inmate who offered prison tours to tourists in Posta, the richest area of San Pedro. We'll go into the prison layout a bit later. But yeah, so that gives you a semi-idea of what this place is like. So I can't remember, I think it was in September 2010. I'm 100% sure it was in September because we watched the AFL Grand Final at a hostel. We were in Bolivia, Jake and I, and everyone was going to this prison. They would do day trips there, so you would leave in the morning, not too early, and then you would usually get a chauffeur, someone that was connected to the inside of the prison, and then you would bribe your way in. Our connection was the head of the Bandidos, so the motorcycle gang in Bolivia. This big giant fucking dude, I can't remember his name. He had actually been in that prison as well. He cut off, I believe, half of his ear to plead insanity, so he got a shorter sentence or something like that. Pretty much their version of Chopper Reed, which is pretty brutal, but he was a really, really nice dude. I remember he was offering like cigarettes to people and just having a yarn and stuff. So he took us to the prison, and we bribed our way in. From memory, I think it was about 40 or 50 Australian dollars, not too expensive. It was a pretty unique thing. So no one knew what to expect. We heard things from the others that had done the tour the day before and stuff like that. So we just went with the flow. We went into the prison and no one was harmed or anything like that. Or they never felt unsafe. So we're all pretty confident, all pretty hungover to be honest. So we got into the prison. It's probably in the morning sometime. Couldn't tell you exactly when. So what you do is you bribe the guards. They kind of pat you down, make sure you don't have any guns or knives or anything. And then you're greeted by a prisoner. Straight away you're into the prison. Now what we noticed straight away that there's no other prison guards in the prison. They are literally outside of the prison in this part, which I'll go into a bit later, as I said, about the different parts of the prison. We were greeted by a prisoner. I think there was about 15 of us, and we all broke up into groups. Then we got another prisoner each, and they walked us around the prison and told us stories about their lives, about the prison, and stuff like that. The book Marching Powder is readily available pretty much on every street corner. Pretty much you get it with a free bag of fucking... You buy your book, you get a free bag of cocaine, pretty much. Like it's ridiculous, the abundance of marching powder books and cocaine in Bolivia. As I said before, they actually make the drug in prison, I believe. So our first guy that we chatted to was a Swedish guy. I'm not too sure if it was the dude I just mentioned in the Wikipedia article. He was a heroin addict, but a very, very high-functioning heroin addict. He's told us stories about his life and stuff like that, which I can't really remember too much. They weren't really in great detail. All it was he was drug trafficking in Bolivia, outside, so from Bolivia to somewhere else, he got caught, and now he's in the foreigner side of the jail, as they call it, or the rich part of the jail. He was smuggling, from memory, about 4 kilos of cocaine, whatever that street price would be. Ridiculous, I guess. We chatted to him for a while, and then we ended up moving on to a different dude, a guy from the cartel in Mexico. He got done, I believe, for trying to take out a ton or some sort of like shipping container worth of cocaine. and he got caught, which was pretty fucking crazy. The thing about this dude, which was a bit weird, that he people looked up after we had finished with the prison tour the Wikipedia page and the cartel that he was from, and they showed us pictures of who this guy was supposed to be, because it did say in the Wikipedia article the guy's name and things like that, but in the picture he was a lot fatter and looked a bit different. From memory, I think he might have even had like different coloured eyes or something, or someone was saying that he had different colour eyes, so we were kind of a little bit sceptical after that. We thought maybe he just read up on the Wikipedia article and started to pretend that he was a criminal. That's what the theories were for some people. For myself, I just went with the flow, took it as what he was saying was real, I guess, but if you're a prisoner, I don't know, you're going to lie and make your day feel a bit fucking better. But this cartel dude, he sat down with us for about maybe 2 hours. It was really funny. After meeting him for about 20 minutes, he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Where are my manners? Oh, I'm just so sorry." And then pulls out like probably 100 grams worth of cocaine in one bag, or 1 gram little bags, and was like, "Does anyone want some coke?" A few people bought cocaine. I think he was saying that it's the safest place in the world to do cocaine because you're in a prison with no prison guards. So, I mean, you can't really get into trouble. You're with other criminals. So, a few people were doing coke, and he was selling beers and whiskey and stuff like that, which is pretty phenomenal from a prison. I'll go into those other bits a bit later. But, yeah, the cartel dude himself was pretty interesting. He was telling us about, like, his family's or his cartel's motto or mantra, which was like, it was something like, if you don't respect our family, your head will roll and all the people from your family's heads will roll, or something like that. I think the internal like fucking motto mantra that his family had was like, we may be criminals but we're not dumb. So apparently he was some sort of like scientist or something like that, and all his brothers and sisters were like apparently doctors. That was their fucking go-to thing, that they were, because they were criminals, it didn't mean they had to be dumb. They actually were well schooled because they were super duper rich, I assume, and went to nice schools. So this cartel guy was pretty damn interesting. He told us a few stories about like growing up with violence and stuff like that. He said he was acclimatized to violence. One of the stories I remember him telling was he had a new girlfriend. They were going for a drive one day. They went around a corner. A motorbike had a head-on collision with a car, and the motorbike rider was pretty much fucking squished on the ground. He was pretty fucked up or dead. His girlfriend was crying and pretty hysterical, and he kind of just diverted around this dead body and kept driving. And she was like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you stopping?" I assume there would have been more of a Spanishy accent, Mexican accent going, but I won't do it. And he was like, "Meh, like, who cares?" And just kept driving. And she was pretty mortified, but he apparently grew up with a lot of violence, being a third-generation drug lord. So that was pretty intense, to be honest. But also one of the weirdest things was we... in the prison itself, as they were saying, you've got to buy your own accommodation and stuff like that. They're pretty cheap. I think they're about 2,000 Bolivianos, which is pretty fucking cheap, I think. And what happened was some of the cells are a lot smaller than others, and some of the people don't speak very good English. So what happens is the people who don't speak good English, they kind of let the other people who speak better English do the tours, but they'll let people use their bigger apartments and stuff like that. So we were sitting down in this guy's apartment. I think there was about 3 or 4 people sitting on the floor, and the rest of the people were just kind of sitting on this bed. And I remember this guy was a Bolivian dude walking in and out. He was like, "Hi," and then he would go to like the second story of this place. I think his wife and kid came in at one stage. And it kind of dawned on us that no one had asked what this other guy whose cell we were in, what he had done. And one of the girls was like, "Oh, what did this dude do? He's quite friendly." And the cartel dude was just like, "Oh no, he's a rapist. Yeah. I think he was a serial rapist," which is really weird because his wife's really, really nice and quite attractive. And we were like, "Oh yeah. I kind of forgot we're still in a prison," which is pretty fucking brutal. So this is the prison layout as it says in Wikipedia. The prison was originally designed to hold 600 inmates and now holds nearly 3,000 inmates. Inmates must purchase their own cells from other inmates because cells are not assigned by or run by uniformed prison officials. The names of the housing section are Posta, Pinos, Elmos, San Martin, Prefectura, Palma, Ganay, and Canasha. All those would be definitely pronounced wrong. If you are a Spanish person, I apologize, or you just speak Spanish. Of those, Posta, Pinos, and Almos are considered the higher end of the communities and act similar to gated communities. Each section has a rating that indicates its housing quality. Representatives of the higher end communities usually lock out non-residents around 9 p.m. I remember that's when we had to leave. We probably left at about 7. There was stories of people staying in the prison. I can't remember hearing about a prison hotel. I remember there was a lady that stayed in the dodgier side of the prison, and of course she was raped that night, so she decided to stay in there and pretty brutally ended up with some abuse, which fucking sucks. But everyone kind of warns you not to go in the shittier side of the prison because they're not rich, and it's pretty lawless apparently. So we were in the richer side of the prison. I think they said it was the Posta, I guess. The lower end communities are said to house the drug addicted inmates and are identified as most dangerous at night time, where most stabbings occur. Each section operates like a small village or neighbourhood with its own courtyard, restaurants, markets and services. So there's no prison fucking food or anything like that where someone comes around, you go to the mess hall and get your food. That doesn't happen. You've got to buy your own shit in this prison. It's really, really unique. The wealthiest area, La Posta, provides inmates with private bathrooms, a kitchen, cable television. Such cells are sold for around 15 to 1,800 Bolivianos, which I think is super cheap. I want to say like that's like $400 or $500. Wealthier inmates can buy luxury cells that may include 3 floors and a hot tub. One inmate paid for a second floor extension to be built on his cell, giving him views across the city. It seems like fucking like it's a joke, but it's real. It's insane. However, most of these inside the prison live in cramped conditions, with it being common for a single room cells to accommodate 5 people. Almost all living sections contain market stalls, and the places play games such as billiards, poker, chess, and in some cells, video games. The canteen and restaurants are owned and run by inmates, while other places sell ingredients to those who have kitchens and can cook for themselves. On the larger open areas, doubles as a soccer pitch, with teams representing each other's sector regularly competing. Within the walls, there is also a hotel for visiting guests, a hospital, and many churches. I really can't remember seeing this hotel or hospital. I do remember there were a few little bits of like churchy type stuff, but I can't remember anything like that. There was definitely a billiards room. I remember one of the crazy dudes that we went with. He went to the prison about 4 or 5 times. This same dude, I believe, came back one day to the hostel and had bought 22 grams of cocaine, and he was just handing out cocaine to everyone. It's insane. I believe at the time cocaine was around about, I'm going to say $10 or $12 for a gram of cocaine when we were in Bolivia, and they were saying that it was like cut at like 95 or 97%. It's just so readily available. It's insane. I looked up just before that cocaine pricing in Australia for a gram of cocaine is around 300 to 400 Australian dollars. So, you know, it is super expensive. So that dude, for instance, the third generation drug lord that pulled out the cocaine out of his fucking jacket pocket had like 30 to 40 $1,000 worth of cocaine just on him. And I'm pretty sure they made cocaine in the prison. That's why it was so readily available. It was a pretty unique experience. I just wanted to quickly check on Wikipedia just to make sure there's nothing really that stands out too much. But the book Marching Powder is pretty insane. It's a book originally the guy name was Rusty. I believe he was an Australian dude, and he was doing a prison tour with the other guy, and then he decided to record all the conversations, and then he made a book, Marching Powder. It's one of those books that everyone's surprised that didn't become a film because it's so unique. Another thing about the prison stuff, with talking to the third generation drug lord, he was saying that he actually hadn't been found guilty yet. What they do is like a bit of a loophole. They make the court hearings or trials and stuff like that, just the dates go for a long time. So you might have to be in prison for 3, 4, 5 years before you get a chance to stand in front of a jury. And he reckons that's how they keep you in the prison, because once you get to the jury and stuff, you can kind of bribe them and whatnot. So I think he had been in there for 18 months or 2 years, and it was supposed to be in December when he was going for his court hearing, and then he reckoned that he was leaving and going back to Mexico. But, as I said, he got caught with nearly a ton of cocaine, and I'm pretty sure it was a ton of cocaine. Like, it was something so ridiculous that it was hundreds of thousands of kilos, or I don't even know what a fucking ton is, to be honest. Is it 1,000 kilos is a ton? I think that's 1,000 kilos. I mean, but it's pretty insane. It just says, I'm just looking at this stuff on Wikipedia. It says laws inside San Pedro Prison. The inmates have developed their own laws and rules. Each sector annually elects a delegate, leader, and a financial secretary. There is little tolerance for those who have committed crimes against women or children, and they are strongly disciplined by other inmates. Many are killed, and these who survive must pay for the services of the prison hospital. So you get fucked up. If you get fucked up, you have to go then pay the hospital for all your fucking things. So it's like being outside, I guess. It's pretty insane. In the book, there's a pretty brutal chapter about what they do to pedophiles and rapists and stuff like that. What they do is they kind of, from memory, I think they sacrifice them. There was like a swimming pool that they used to chuck them in, and I believe they used to just whomp them with fucking sticks and whatnot until they either cracked their melons open and died, or knocked them out and then they drowned. Or it was an empty pool, and that's where they kind of like caged them up and then beat them to death. I think there was like a notorious guy from the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia when it was called that. The big brute of a man that was like 6'8" or something that used to dole out punishment to a lot of the rapists and pedophiles and stuff like that. So, I mean, just don't be a scumbag and do that type of shit. I'm wrapping up this type of fucking this segment. Just quickly going to read the income. There are several sources of income for prisoners and those who run the establishment. Embol, the Bolivian brewery, who own the exclusivity rights to produce Coca-Cola in Bolivia, have a deal whereby their products are advertised and sold inside prison and rival brands are banned. Okay, so Coca-Cola are scumbags. In return, they provide cash, tables, chairs, an umbrella for the grounds. Most prisoners have jobs such as messengers, hairdressers, and shopkeepers, with many profiting from the tourist trade. Many inside the prison work as tour guides or sell handmade crafts to the visitors. And the tourism provides many of them with a source of income. There is also gambling trade, with betting in the inner section on the football matches being up to worth $20,000 a year. Players are also sometimes bought and sold between teams. Jesus. Cocaine is produced inside the compound, with large laboratories producing significant amount of drugs, while other inmates utilise crude processing systems in their own cells. Consequently, the amount of drug use and addiction around the prison is very high. The cocaine is trafficked outside, meaning that the prison is a large supplier of the drug. So, in short, a lot of the fucking drugs actually are made in the prison and then go out into the world, I assume. Alcohol is widely available and is on sale, important source of income for some of those inside the prison. There was dudes selling beers in prison. It was like a brown snake, a fucking a king cobra, bloody, what are they, 700ml bottle of fucking beer was about $2. And then in the prison, I think a can of beer was about $10. So it is crazily, marketed, more expensive. Marked up is what I'm trying to fucking say. So yeah, that's pretty much the prison. Just to touch on that for 2 seconds, the reason that nothing happens in the foreigner side of the prison to the tourist is because, as you just heard, a lot of their money comes from the tourists. So I believe that the guards pocket a lot of the money, either half or more than half of the bribes, letting people come into the prison, and the rest is shared amongst the prisoners. The cartel dude told us that you are super safe in the prison, in this side anyway, in the richer side, because as there's a strict set of rules, if they hurt you or do something wrong, they're pretty much going to get fucking stabbed, because it's the source of their main income is tourism. Now, I'm not too sure if the prison's still doing this. I heard of a couple of people who went into the prison, ended up getting stabbed or something like that in the shittier side, and I think the government intervened and closed prison tours down, which is unfortunate. But if you're in Bolivia and La Paz, San Pedro Prison is absolutely awesome. I am very not much of a tough guy, but I felt safe. There was women with us. We sat down. We fucking laughed with the prisoners. I said the crazy dude was off by himself playing pool against the prisoners, smoking fucking bass with them. But if you've got the opportunity, it's one of the most incredible things I've ever done in my life. I honestly mean that. I've done a lot of cool shit, and that's one 10 years on still resonates very, very highly with me. So I would highly, highly recommend going to the La Paz prison in Bolivia. So yeah, check it out.
That's the end of the Tait Talks podcast. Yeah, 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 yeah. Motherfuckers.